Hello and welcome to D&D 101. In this session we are going to talk about the character sheet. So there is a lot of parts on these character sheets, and depending on where you're gathering the character sheet from, you will get in slightly different formats, but they do all contain the same data. So this is the official Dungeons & Dragons character sheet as found in the Player's Handbook. The Player's Handbook, in case you're unaware, is the main rule book for anybody playing Dungeons & Dragons. Now, for the most part, it's more about how to build your characters, and later on it's got explanations of the spells if you're a spellcaster, as well as how combat works in other parts. This is a very great book. If you're planning on playing D&D a lot, I highly recommend this book. If you are just going for a first try, don't worry about the book. So your character sheet, you have down here what are known as your stats. They will have a modifier in the square box. In the circle they will have their actual value. Now these values can range up to and beyond 30, although through typical means they tend to stall at 20. The pluses, however, are what you would add to the D20 roll depending on the check that you're having to do. You have inspiration. Now inspiration is something that a DM can give you when you happen to do an amazing piece of role playing. So let's say, I don't know, you are playing a dragonborn paladin who is afraid of spiders, and you walk into a room and the DM mentions that there are spiders in here, and you just turn around and say, my character, or you just get up, scream and run away from the table, or you detail how your character has just zoomed off from the spider. These things can gain you inspiration points when you do that excellent piece of playing the game. An inspiration point can then be burnt later on to re-roll any of your checks. So that's a pretty important tool. Proficiency bonus you don't really need to worry about in your first games. The DM will help you work all that out, but essentially they're based on your level. So a level 1 has a +2 proficiency, and it's like that until you're level 5, then it goes up to +3, and my apologies, the cat's just hit the camera. Yeah, and this keeps going up as you level up. You have saving throws. Saving throws are very important. There will be moments in the game where a monster doesn't attack or cast a spell that requires you to save against that attack. Common ones are, for example, Constitution saving throws, which are requiring you to save against a poison. And what that basically means is you have a look at the Constitution here, you roll your d20 and you add whatever number is on that row. Okay, it's that simple. Down here we have a skills box. Now on some sheets the skill box is here. I've seen them across the bottom as well. It depends on the sheet, but the skills are all the same in the box. So you have things such as acrobatics, arcana, athletics, deception, perception, investigation, intimidation, a lot of words, and these words are obviously can be very confusing. We will actually do a one-on-one session on what the skills are, so don't need to worry about that. But again, most commonly you'll be asked to do a perception check, or you might be asked to do an athletics check. All that's on about is find the words, add the plus to your d20 roll. That is the total that you rolled for that check. Okay, moving on, you will have a proficiencies box. In here it will describe what languages you can speak, such as Dwarvish, Common, Underdark, Elven, so on and so forth. These are useful because sometimes the DM will tell you that an NPC is talking in a particular language. If you have that language, that means you can understand them straight away. If you don't have that language but you happen to have some skills, say history or something, when you might have picked up some of the words, you could attempt to see if you can kind of gather the understanding or use your insight perhaps to work out what they're trying to mean through their body language. You have another box for your equipment. This is all the things that you're holding. These are worth looking at because, for example, there might be a moment where there's a large chasm. On the other side there's a post, and in your equipment you happen to have some rope and a hook. So you can basically make yourself a grappling hook and attempt to hook onto that other side if you have a decent athletic skill. So always good to know what you are carrying with you. You have a section for your attacks and spellcasting. Now in here it will tell you the name of the attack, the attack bonus. So the attack bonus is what you add when you roll the d20 to see if you hit. And then it will have a damage. And the damage will usually be something like 1d6 plus a number. And what that is basically saying is you roll the d6 and you add whatever that plus is to the total value you've rolled, and that's the damage that you've done. In addition, they might have certain types like piercing, and again, I will and bludgeoning, and I'll talk about what those mean when we go into a combat piece. You have hit dice. Hit dice are very important. For example, at level 10 you will have 10 hit dice. If you've multi-class, which means you're playing as 2 different classes, you will have a variety of different dice. But essentially what this means is during a short rest you can burn 1 or more of those dice to recover HP. HP is up here. You will have a maximum and your current total. HP is hit points. That is the number of damage you can take before you become unconscious, and if you take more than that damage you die. You can acquire temporary hit points which push you above your maximum. We have a section for death saves, so if you get to 0 hit points you basically have to roll to try not to die, because at this point you're bleeding out, it can go very bad. You might be able to stabilize yourself until somebody can heal you. You have your armor class. This is how high somebody has to roll to be able to hit you. So for example, a 13 would mean I need to roll a hit that's above 13 on a d20 with whatever modifier I've got for my attack. Your initiative is a bonus that you add when you roll for initiative. So if the DM asks you to roll for initiative, you roll the d20 and you add that number in that box. Your speed is how far you can move in a single turn. So in combat, a turn is 6 seconds, and this speed is how far you can travel in 6 seconds. Most people it's 30 foot, which on a grids are usually 5 foot by 5 foot. So simply that is, what do you want, Remus? It's 6 squares that you can move in a turn. At the top here you then have your class, level, background, player name, alignment and race. Your class. This is very important and we'll cover this when we go into character building. You could be a paladin, a ranger, a rogue. These all have different purposes. And the level is the level in that class. So you could be a level 10 player, but you could have 5 levels in rogue and 5 levels in ranger. Your background is essentially a bit of history on the character, and what they do is they give you different ones of the skills that you're proficient in and some starting equipment. So for alignment, you have good, neutral, evil, lawful, neutral, chaotic. A lawful character essentially just follows the law. A good lawful character follows the law without questioning how to manipulate it. Evil lawful character will know how to use the law in such a way to benefit themselves, such as a tax haven method or legal tax evasions, that kind of stuff. The neutral character sits in between the two. They will take it to their advantage when they need to, and they'll follow it when they need to. Your neutral, in general, in the chaotic lawful part, a neutral character follows their own path. They do whatever they want. Typically, for example, a good neutral is following the path for good, whereas an evil neutral is following it for for their dark ways, whatever that might be. A chaotic one simply does not give a damn at all. So chaotic good are your for the greater good kind of characters. They will do everything, destroy the law, whatever they need to get what they believe to be good. That's the fundamental problem. It's what they believe to be good. And your chaotic evil, again, will do anything to get to that evil part. I think the best example of a chaotic evil would be the Joker. They will kill just because they can. They have no consideration about it. They just do it. A chaotic good character is your Dumbledore. He's not lawful. He does not follow the law. He just does what he needs to do for what he believes is to be good. A true neutral character is probably one of the hardest to play. Essentially, I think the best way of describing it is they don't care. They don't care for good, they don't care for evil, they don't care for the law. They won't just be trigger happy though. They're very focused and thoughtful about how they do things, but they just fundamentally don't have a care for good or evil. So I guess in a way it's an anarchist. And then you finally have your features and traits. So these are extra things you can do. This is really an important thing to go over on a character sheet to understand what other things you can do. For example, you might have Tavern Brawler, which gives you some benefits in hand-to-hand combat and other kinds of stuff there. So these are important things. I say final things. You do also have your personality traits, ideals, bonds, flaws. This basically just describes the personality of your character. This is for role-playing purposes only. If you're not interested in actually role-playing the character, you just want to turn up and you just want to fight, which you can perfectly well do in D&D, you don't have to care about this. Now, if you want to develop a character, become part of the story, really ingrained, that's important. Then you typically have like a whole section of scoping out just what the character is, their backstory, plots, how they look. This again is for role-playing purposes only. It doesn't have any rules behind it. It doesn't have any controls. And then finally, your spellcasters will have this spellcasting list, essentially a spell book. It tells you what spells you know for different levels. And we will go into this more in detail in a 101 spells. So, that's been the character sheet. I know it's quite complicated for a first look, but trust me, you get used to it very quickly and it becomes really easy. So again, thank you for watching, and until next time, keep it geeky.